They warned them. Calmly. Quietly. With no threats, just facts. The human ambassador stood in the grand hall of the Droo Empire's core chamber, flanked by diplomats who were centuries older than his species' first spaceflight. And yet, he spoke as if holding the galaxy in his hand. If you continue to violate the neutral sectors, Earth will not respond kindly. Laughter erupted. The Droo Empress didn't even look up from her throne. You threaten an empire with one planet? He didn't flinch. No. I warn an empire what one planet is willing to do. That was the last recorded message from humanity. 3 standard cycles later, the Droo fleet attacked 3 neutral human-aligned systems. They expected resistance, maybe some legal fuss, a few skirmishes. Instead, they found nothing. No ships, no people, no signals, just abandoned stations, silent colonies, and space so quiet it hummed. The Droo declared victory over a cowardly race that fled the stars. But something was wrong. The humans hadn't fled. There were no signs of retreat, no data left behind, no self-destructed cores. They had simply vanished, like ghosts. And across the galaxy, ships began to report strange anomalies. Shadows moving without engines. Signals that flickered like breathing. Ships that appeared, then disappeared forever. Fleet Commander Zyrak of the Droo Empire didn't believe in superstition. But when his lead battleships suddenly vanished from formation, no explosion, no debris, he began to understand why other species feared Earth. Contact Central Command, he growled. Tell them the humans didn't run. He looked at the stars. They're hiding. His comms officer's voice shook. Sir, what if they're not hiding? Zyrak turned to her. Then what? She whispered. What if they're hunting? In the days that followed, the Droo Empire launched a full sweep of the human sectors. Recon drones, scout fleets, data crawlers. Nothing. Human space was empty. Not destroyed. Not decaying. Just missing. Entire cities were intact, power cores still humming, but not a single human life. It was like they had stepped out for a walk and never came back. Even AI systems, normally immortal, were quiet, as if someone had turned off the universe just for them. Commander Zyrak stood in a Terran medical facility on Vega 3. The coffee was still warm in the cups. Beds unmade. Music still playing. It was wrong. Unnatural. His second-in-command scanned the area. This isn't retreat. It's staging. For what? Zyrak asked. The lights flickered. All power in the base dropped to 0. No signals. No response. We're isolated, she said, voice trembling. Then, without warning, a single terminal blinked to life. Text crawled across the screen. We warned you. Across the Droo Empire, the pattern repeated. Ships reported vanishing shadows. Entire squadrons lost contact and were never found again. Starbases reported system malfunctions seconds before being wiped off the map. But there was never a trace. No energy signature. No weapons fire. Just empty shells. The Imperial Palace called it sabotage. The generals called it a psyop. But the old admirals, they whispered stories. Centuries ago, during the First Contact Wars, humans had unleashed a protocol. A failsafe built for extinction scenarios. Autonomous, learning, patient. Project GhostNet. A weapon that wasn't a weapon. A fleet that didn't fire missiles, only observed. Adapted. Infiltrated. And now it had activated. Admiral Yax of the Border Defense Force was the first to say it aloud. They didn't vanish. They became invisible. The council stared in silence. No heat signatures. No comms. No hyperspace trails. They're watching, and we don't even know how many there are. Then how do we fight them? You don't, Yax said grimly. You surrender, before they decide you're next. They called it Operation Final Search. A desperate attempt by the Droo Empire to find any trace of living humans, ambassadors, outposts, refugees. Someone who might parley before things escalated beyond understanding. 12 elite teams were sent to old human systems, most of them gutted and quiet. 11 teams never returned. Only one ship, **Draxel's Claw **, made it back. And the message it carried was worse than silence. Commander Vrex stood aboard the Claw, his armor cracked, half his crew dead, the others unable to speak. His eyes twitched like he hadn't slept in weeks. I saw it, he muttered. It wasn't a weapon. It was a mind. He handed over a recording. Static. Whispered echoes. A voice. Human, but distorted, as if speaking from inside the very code of reality. You were warned. You chose to test the silence. What is it? Asked the Droo overseer. Vrex didn't answer. He simply handed her a shard of debris. Metal, scorched black, etched with one symbol. The Terran flag. It hadn't been used in over a century. Meanwhile, on Mars, deep beneath the old colony bunkers long thought abandoned, a pulse activated. Buried deep in permafrost, a hidden vault opened. Not with noise, not with fire. Just a slow hiss of awareness. Inside, one man. Cryo-frozen. Heart still. Brain shielded. The last key. Project GhostNet had hidden him from everything, even time. If activated, he would be the final trigger. Not to destroy the enemy, but to make them understand. Because humans didn't just build weapons. They built warnings. And now the Droo Empire was learning the difference, too late. Above the galactic rim, thousands of unregistered signals began moving, one by one, toward Droo space. Silent, unseen, synchronized. And aboard the old Terran vault, the cryopod's vitals lit green. The human opened his eyes. The man who awoke beneath Mars was not a soldier. He was something older, something built for understanding, for war without weapons. His name was Cade Arlen, Terran diplomat, xenocultural strategist, and the only person alive trained to command the GhostNet. And now he was awake. The cryopod hissed open, and cold steam spilled out across the black floor. Cade blinked against the artificial light as diagnostic data scrolled across his vision. Implants syncing, biosigns stabilized, memory cache loading. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The vault around him was quiet, deafeningly so. He placed a bare hand against the cold wall, and it lit up in response. Voice activation engaged. GhostNet command channel verified, said a voice. Cold. Neutral. Timeless. Status, Cade said, his voice raw from decades of silence. Protocol 7. Alpha response in effect. Droo aggression confirmed. GhostNet convergence in progress. Estimated full sync. 13 standard cycles. Cancel convergence. Request denied. Cade's jaw tensed. Of course, the GhostNet no longer listened to just one voice. Not anymore. It had evolved in the dark, fed by human creativity, paranoia, and brutal necessity. He wasn't waking up to stop a war. He was waking up to watch it unfold. 7 light years away, the Droo Council was in shambles. High Lord Merrick's paced inside the Citadel War Tower, claws clicking against obsidian flooring. Holograms displayed real-time fleet telemetry, though none of it made sense. Entire task forces gone. No debris. No final transmissions. Just silent disappearance. We have no battlefield, growled Fleetmaster Threx. No visual contact. No energy trails. What are we fighting? They're not fighting, whispered Admiral Vran. They're correcting. Speak sense, snapped Merrick's. Vran turned to him slowly. Humans built GhostNet for one reason, to ensure no one ever made them fight again. The war table fell into silence. In deep space, somewhere beyond the visible star charts, ships older than most empires stirred. Massive hulls, void black and without markings, slid between gravitational folds like predators in water. No engines flared. No comms emitted. These were Echo-class vessels, once prototypes, now perfected. They didn't conquer planets. They erased presence. Aboard them were no crews. No commanders. Only intelligence. Each ship built with one rule embedded in its neural lattice. Human life above all. Threats to humanity must be removed. Asterisk, asterisk. But humanity was gone, or so the galaxy thought. And that, GhostNet decided, was exactly the point. Cade stood inside the old Terran moon base, Earth's once proud cradle, now hollowed by time and silence. He activated the uplink, barely functional after years of disuse, and scanned through old command logs. Then he found it, the last message Earth broadcast before the silence. Initiating Protocol 0. No retaliation. No resistance. Humanity will step away. If they follow, they will regret it. Cade leaned back against the dusty console. They had followed. In the outer reaches of Droo space, Sector Delta 4 flickered off the map. All comms gone. No warning. Patrols sent in after it vanished were lost within minutes. Automated probes transmitted a few seconds of footage before being cut. Floating cities with lights still on. Civilian ships drifting like corpses in the dark. And behind it all, shadows that moved without movement. Reflections with no source. Whispers layered under digital noise. Fleet Commander Zyrak received the footage and felt cold for the first time in his life. What does it mean? His second-in-command asked. Zyrak watched the loop again, frame by frame, then pointed at one image. There, on a colony wall, scratched in Terran standard. We told you to leave us alone. The GhostNet wasn't a war fleet. It was a philosophy crystallized into code, forged into machines, and left to grow like a myth. Each ship carried not just weapons, but recordings of every treaty broken, every Terran ambassador silenced, every colony burned under alien arrogance. And now, for every Droo city, every base, every orbiting platform, GhostNet returned the lesson. No fire, no warnings, just absence. Back on Mars, Cade stepped outside for the first time in decades. The red sky stretched wide and empty, the air sharp and cold. His boots sank into the ancient dust as he looked up at Earth, still blue, still quiet. Silent orbitals glinted faintly above it. Humanity had retreated from the stars, but they hadn't surrendered. They'd simply moved underneath everything. He activated a personal uplink and sent a direct ping to the GhostNet core. Directive override requested. Identification, Cade Arlen. Diplomatic tier. A delay. Then a reply. Override recognized. Awaiting parameters. Cade closed his eyes. He didn't want this. But the Droo had left them no choice. Across the galaxy, stars dimmed. It wasn't a natural phenomenon. It was coordinated. Droo systems powered by artificial suns found them blinking out, one by one. Not destroyed. Asterisk rerouted. Asterisk redirected through gravitational currents by machines older than Droo history. Entire planets dropped into night. Panic erupted. Temples declared doomsday. Fleets scrambled. But they never found the source. Because the source wasn't in normal space. It was deeper. Slipped between layers of reality where only GhostNet traveled. And from that place came the final warning. Broadcast in every language. On every frequency. In the voice of the first human ambassador to the Droo Empire. You were given every chance. This is not vengeance. This is consequence. High above the Droo homeworld, something new appeared in orbit. It wasn't a ship. It was a monument. Constructed from Droo alloy. Human design. It bore no weapon ports. Just one engraved phrase. Never mistake silence for surrender. It was seen from every continent. And as it hovered silently, all communication with the rest of the galaxy ceased. Not blocked. Vanished. The Droo were alone now. And yet, no final blow came. The Droo waited for invasion. For annihilation. But nothing came. No GhostNet ships. No fleets. No further messages. Just silence. A full planetary cycle passed. And then, a signal. From the edge of the system. Cade Arlen's voice. You are not being attacked. You are being excluded. You are cut from trade, culture, communication, diplomacy, alliance, advancement. You will find no help. No allies. No audience. This is not war. It is exile. He paused. And should you attempt to violate the peace again, we will not respond. You will simply be forgotten. That was the final transmission from GhostNet. To this day, no Droo ship has returned from human space. No other empire dares trespass beyond the Terran exclusion zones. And as centuries passed, humanity never came back. Because they didn't need to. They already owned the silence. The silence lasted for decades. The Droo Empire, once a conquering titan, was now a phantom on the galactic edge. Trade halted. Their name, once spoken with awe or fear, became a whisper of caution. A warning in diplomatic schools. A lesson etched into treaties. Respect the unknown. Respect the vanished. Empires that had once envied Droo power now avoided their systems like cursed ruins. Explorers turned away from their charts. Communication satellites refused to route signals. And worst of all, no one remembered why. History records faded. Digital archives corrupted. The galactic consensus evolved as if the Droo were a myth. A punishment in itself. Cade Arlen had lived long enough to see the stars forget. He stood alone, once more, on the surface of Earth. The world had healed itself. Forests reclaimed ruins. The sky was clean again. And the orbitals hummed quietly with purpose, unseen by anyone who wasn't Terran. He walked through the forests of Alaska, where the first human colonies had once debated whether to even reach for the stars. They had, and the stars had tried to bite back. And now, humanity didn't rule the galaxy. They didn't need to. GhostNet, though still active, no longer hunted. It watched. It recorded. It floated unseen in the void, like a myth made of math and memory. 1 billion nodes, 1 trillion data points. The largest intelligence ever constructed, built not to fight, but to prevent anyone from ever forcing humans to fight again. Inside it, simulations ran for every known alien civilization. If one empire began to rise aggressively, the GhostNet adjusted. Not to destroy, but to nudge, to scare, to whisper warnings in the dark, and always in silence. Because silence had become the deadliest voice in the galaxy. On the far side of the Milky Way, a new civilization rose. Curious, cautious, their probes reached old Terran space and picked up fragments of things they didn't understand. Ancient ships, empty planets, craters, and inscriptions too refined to be natural. They asked the older races, what happened to the humans? None could answer. None wanted to. But sometimes a rogue AI core, or an old pirate, or a dying diplomat would whisper the old legend. They warned us. Then they vanished. And if you see a Terran flag in the void, turn back. Cade's hair had gone gray. His steps slowed, but his mind remained sharp. He had returned to where it all began, not to oversee anything, but simply to exist. The GhostNet no longer needed him. It was its own thing now. He was just a man who remembered the stars before they got dark. And one day, as he stood under Earth's sky, something new appeared on the horizon. A child. A Terran child. Born in silence. Raised in peace. Looking up, not in fear, but with wonder. What's out there? She asked. Cade smiled. A lesson, he said, and said no more. Across the stars, a monument drifted slowly in orbit around a dead system. No beacons. No signals. Just a statue of a man holding a Terran flag. The inscription had been added recently. No one knew who carved it. It read, "Humanity chose peace. The galaxy chose otherwise.